Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our Elohim, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. So these three men, which represent the many, represent obviously the many who will be justified. Because obviously there will be many who won't be, because at that time they will end up accepting the mark. So the three friends of Daniel represent the many who will reject all falsehood when it's too late for them to be able to enter without dying. So the few will accept the two witnesses, the many won't. But once the two witnesses are killed, the many will realize that they were right. The two witnesses were right. So they will say, okay, now we have to do what they said. But it's too late because they are killed already. So they will have to give their own lives because they did not accept the life of the two witnesses which were given through their sacrifices, as the 144,000 did, and therefore enter without experiencing death. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our Elohim whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. So they will be willing to die, knowing that Yahweh will justify them after death and raise them up as if they never had been killed, rectified with the true name, as we see in Revelation 7, when they will finally accept that the salvation only comes from Yahweh Elohim. So the three friends of Daniel represent those who will have to die and will be willing when it is too late for them to enter without dying. He will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, which is very important, we must be willing to give our life for Yahweh. As a matter of fact, it is my belief for several reasons that the 144,000 all actually are willing to give their lives, and that is why Yahushua doesn't let them give their lives and doesn't allow them to experience death, while the many are trying to save their lives. And by trying to save their lives through emotion, manipulation, false doctrines, end up rejecting the two witnesses and therefore have to die at the end in order to be justified. So, but if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your Elohim, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. So at that time the many will say, we will not worship God, even though we had done it before. We will not worship Jesus and that image which you created, which you made, because the many by that time will already understand what that is because of Revelation 13, the explanation of the two witnesses, of course. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed. So we see there how he was trying to agonize and manipulate them with a good face, telling them, why are you going to worship my Elohim? He's the only Elohim, worship him. When they said they wouldn't do it, his face changed to his reality, evil. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. So he was so angry that he asked for the furnace to be heated 7 times more than usually. 7 times, meaning 7 represents completion. It shows how by this moment we had entered already at that time the 7th millennium, which starts on the 6th seal, the year 6000, on the 6th seal. At that time the 7th millennium starts. 7 months later they kill the two witnesses. Few days later the 30 days of killing the many will start. And that is why at the very beginning of the last millennium, the 7th millennium, the beast will start killing the many. And that's why the number 7 appears here, among other things also. Like the 7 last plagues that will begin during the Great Tribulation, the second half of the last 7 years. So the 7 bowls of wrath. And he spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So those coats, trousers, turbans, and other garments represent the body, because the body is for the soul as the clothing for our body. So bodies are represented by the clothing. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So it was so strong that it killed those who were trying to kill the many, which shows how those who kill the many will end up being condemned for it and being punished for killing the many. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So that represents that they will be actually killed. When they fall down into the furnace, represents that they die and go to Sheol, where the souls go. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and once again I repeat, look how even when it is not mentioning the Babylonians speaking about them, but is Yahweh speaking about them, the name Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are mentioned, because that represents that they did not give honor to the Hebrew name, the real name, as they should, and that's why they had to die, represented by the fact that they use the Babylonian names.